we do based simply upon we compare ourselves to the world. That's the wrong comparison to make. They tried to change the way they thought. To change the way they think here. They tried to get them to change their appetites. Change their way they thought. I'm just going to go ahead and throw this out here. They were trying to give them, change what they eat and what they drink. As Christians, we need to be real careful about socially drinking. Because, folks, and this is, as a Christian, as a pastor, I've seen this from time to time. You start socially drinking. Glass of wine here, a couple of beers here, glass, going out to work. And again, I'm not going to breathe down your neck. Okay? I'm not that type of a pastor. This is not that type of a church. Some of you grew up in churches that, okay. And it can become very legalistic. But I'll tell you this. Your kids see you drinking. I guarantee you this. Your kids are going to take it to the next level. When you start letting down, and again, these are young men who grew up in a time of revival. They were changed. If you allow for something, the next generation always will take it to the next level. So when you go to Pizza Hut, or we'll use Rosa's because it's right there. When you're at Rosa's, and you buy your enchilada dinner, and you think, well, you know what? It's just one Dos Equis. It's just one Corona. And your kids see you drinking that Dos Equis or see you drinking that Corona, guess what's going to happen? Your kids are going to think it's okay to drink. And chances are your kids are going to say, let's go out and grab a case of Dos Equis. Move on, Brother Bible. Okay. They also tried to change who they were. They tried to change their faith. Said, well, I see nothing there about faith. Yeah, it's subtle, but it's there. Their names in verse 2 are Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah. Now you know what their names mean? Daniel means judge of God. Hananiah means favored of Jehovah. Mishael means who is great like God. And Azariah means Jehovah has helped us. That's what their names mean. They begin to change their names here. They call Daniel now Belteshazzar. The word Bel there is the god of the Babylonians. They're trying to change everything. They're trying to give them a different religion. Nego, in Abednego, Nego is another Babylonian god. Now, they don't know what Shadrach and Meshach mean, but if two of them are being changed, their names are being changed to foreign gods or false gods, chances are the other two were changed as well. They're trying to change their faith. And so you see all this subtle change happening, this great trial of their faith. They are all alone. Mom and Dad are not there. Grandpa's not there. The temple's not there. The law of God is not there. They are standing there by themselves. They had a discerning test here. And this is the important, really the important part of the message here. Because this applies to all of us. They are taken away from everything they know, and they are placed by themselves in this difficult situation. For every one of them, it would have been easier for them to do what? Well, I'm just going to go with the flow. Everybody else is. We don't know how many people were carried away into Babylon. We don't know. Probably lots, hundreds, maybe even thousands of young men. All we know is 4 young men said, no, that's standing alone. But there is an interesting thing here you see in verse number 8. They purposed in their heart. Daniel says he purposed in his heart. When you break down the word purpose in the Hebrew language, it means you can get some really good thoughts here. It is a decided resolution. He made a resolution. It is the Hebrew word, we get the Hebrew word to be determined to do something. One way you can look at it, was a well-rehearsed. He rehearsed it in his mind. Simply put, he knew what he was going to do before he ever was put in the situation. He was taken away, and before he ever got to Babylon, you know what he said? Well, they're not going to change me. They're not going to change me. They may try to, but you know what? They're not going to change me. He made that determination long before. Now, when did he make it? I don't know. He might have made it way back when he was a little boy, when Josiah was still king. And he made the resolution to live for God. Now, we get this idea simply because it's in the books of prophecy that somehow Daniel was a prophet. Daniel is not necessarily a prophet in the sense that Isaiah is a prophet or Jeremiah is a prophet, because God spoke to them. God never speaks to Daniel. An angel comes and gives him a message. He's not a prophet in the classic sense. You know what he is? He's just like Janice McCafferty. He's a government official. So that's what he is. He goes to work every day as a government official. He's a lot like Nehemiah. There's nothing special about him. He doesn't have no great spiritual gifts of prophecy. He's just a regular guy who said, you know what? I'm not going to be like the rest of the world. He made that determination. He purposed in his heart. He was willing to be different. Right off the bat, when these 4 boys said that we're not going to do this. You know, you're going to try to change us. And we're not going to do that. We're willing. And he said, man, if you don't start eating what we give you and drinking what we give you, man, you're going to look completely different. He just simply said this, okay, try me. There was a willingness to be different. Now, as believers, God calls us to be different. Again, I'm not saying, folks, you need to be weird. Okay, I'm not saying you need to look like all the Mennonites that come in from Seminole and go to Walmart, okay? With the big buns on your hair and long dresses and tennis shoes. And I mean, they just look silly. In their desire to be so separated, guess what? Everybody does what? Looks at them, stares at them. But we are called to be different. You can still be in style. You can still know what's going on in the world. I'm not saying that you go hide in some cave. But what he simply did there, he was willing to be unique. He was willing to say, hey, I'm not going to do this. I can be different. And he was ready to be challenged. He said, prove me. Prove me and my friends. Hey, we'll do it for, in a sense, a month. And we'll look just as good. We'll be just as healthy. That's what God wants us to do. You go to work tomorrow, be different. Don't let the world drag you into thinking that you have to talk like them, look like them, act like them, think like them. You don't have to. And in fact, if you go and you stand up, God will bless you. Because that's literally what happened. He got a great reward here. Daniel purposes in his heart. And let's just go down. I kind of got off there. If you drop down toward the end of the chapter here. Let's start in verse number 17. It says, as for these 4 children, and again, when it's talking about the simple fact that they're children, they're more than children. They're probably in their late teens. It says, as for these 4 young men, God gave them knowledge and skill in all learning and wisdom. When you take a stand for God, God will give you wisdom. Now I think we need to purpose in our heart. We need to be ready to say why we believe what we believe. Peter says you need to be ready to give an answer to every man, a reason of the hope that is within you. I don't think that just simply has to do with your salvation testimony. You're going to be different, unique. You know, when somebody comes to you and says, well, why don't you talk like this? What's the big deal? You better have an answer. And you know who I think that answer comes from? When you honor God, God will honor you. Who gave them the wisdom? Obviously, they were smart. They had something going on to begin with. But the verse is really clear there. God gave them knowledge and skill in learning and wisdom. God will help you. Why Jesus Christ said that one of the things that will happen when the Spirit of God dwells in us, the Spirit of God will speak for us. God will help you. You get in the book and you read and you study out some things, you'll be surprised what God will do. He gave them skill and the ability. And because of that, it says that Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. Now at the end of days that the king had said he should bring them, the prince of the eunuchs brought them before Nebuchadnezzar, and the king communed with them, and among them all was found none like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore stood they before the king. God honored them and God blessed them. God put them in a place of influence. You know, you'll be surprised. When you make a stand for the Lord and do what's right, God will bless you. And you'll be surprised what happens. Now again, I am not boasting in any way here. You might have said, why did you tell that whole story about you working in the warehouse? When I started working in the warehouse, I boxed orders. Order would come down, I'd throw them in a box, take the box, throw it down a conveyor belt. In 4 years, I was head of the shift. Now, how does that happen? You know why? I went to work. I never went hungover. When I went there, I worked hard. I knew how to talk to people. Treated the boss with respect. And guess what they ended up doing? Why don't you try this? They moved it. To the point when I left, I went in and I told them, well, I got